All right, Carter Gaddis, you have been a patron for 6 or 7 months. We've been going back and forth. You want to talk about the energy crisis that's going on, that's kind of coming to the forefront of everybody's mind. And so before we start, I just want to ask, why are you relevant to be able to speak on this topic?
Yeah, I've been in the energy business for over 15 years. Currently, I trade physical natural gas in North America. I trade roughly anywhere, depending on commodity prices, anywhere from 700 to 800 million bucks worth of natural gas a year.
700 to 800 million dollars of gas a year.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. Well, speaking of gas, before we get into the crisis and everything that's kind of going on today, and I know you got some stuff to talk about with Russia and selling coal to China, but my primary question and what's on everybody's mind is, where's gas going? How much are we going to be paying at the pumps?
Yeah, I mean, good question. It's right now I've heard, crude oil a year ago was about $50 a barrel, and right now it's over 110. There's several factors that went into that. We'll get into that in a little bit. A lot of energy experts are calling for $180 to $200 per barrel for crude oil, which means gasoline could be, I think out west it's probably around $6 right now. Here we're $4 about.
So over $4.
I think here easily we could see $5.50 to $6 a gallon at the rate we're going, maybe worse. Canada is $8 a gallon right now. And
how fast could we see $6 at the pump?
I mean, there's a lot of physical factors going on right now in the crude oil world that I don't even fully understand because I'm natural gas, but in the next 2 months, there's going to be even a larger physical shortage of product in the middle of the country that, you combine that with Canada just released their COVID restrictions this week. They're already at, like I said earlier, $8 a gallon. When people start getting out and it's summer, summer fuel season is the high time of the North American demand. Same thing for Canada. Shoot, where are you going to go in the winter there when it's minus 40? So, same thing here. Summer hits, high demand time. We have a supply crunch already and some big factors coming down the pipe right in time for Memorial Day. So I bet by then we could see $6 here.
$6 a gallon by Memorial Day? You think it'll keep going higher after that?
It could. Luckily, we're kind of in uncharted territories, kind of where our country is, but usually we're in a position where supply will solve the puzzle. We're a capitalist country. So as price, what was it? When Bush was president, we were paying $4 a gallon, I think, $3.50, $4, and that was before we're at where we are now with inflation. So you kind of put that in your mind and you think, yeah, $6 could be easy. It could keep going potentially, especially if we don't have something solved for X.
Well, what's causing it? Is it because we shut the Keystone pipeline down? Like, where's the shortage coming from?
Yeah, so that that didn't help. I know that's like a hot button item on mainstream media that, hey, we need to fix the Keystone pipeline. We need to reinstate it. That'll fix everything. In reality, I don't want to get too technical, but that's heavy crude that will go to the Gulf Coast. They'll crack it and export it. So the real way to fix this is to increase domestic production. That is, we were just looking at some of the news right before we started here, and we're gonna start buying crude oil again from Iran potentially. Like, this is just an absolute mess. Like, our politicians could sit down with every big producer in every region, have a meeting with them face to face and say, how can we fix this? How can you guys increase production? I don't care if it's 5%, 10%, something. These guys could do it. The market is dictating it. It's just they have to have the money to do it. And right now, a lot of money is a little afraid to invest in fossil fuels because of the direction our country's going.
Which is?
Green.
So why are we importing all this oil from, supposedly now we're going to be importing oil from Iran? Where else do we import oil from?
Canada. So just a quick breakdown. We use about 20 million barrels a day as a country. We produce roughly 11. A year and a half ago, I think it was 13. So we're already down considerably there. So we import about 9 million barrels a day. About half of that's from Canada. Then you got obviously Russia's about 500,000 of petroleum products. Like Mexico and a few other kind of smaller countries feed our imports as well. But Canada's the biggest one.
Do we not have it here?
We do, yeah. I mean, of the 20 million barrels a day of demand of crude oil, we produce natively 11 to 12.
Can we produce more?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why aren't we?
There's a lot of theories. I think that our country seems hell-bent on going as green as possible, as quick as possible, which is really my entire reason for reaching out to you, to kind of get to your platform and let people know what's really going on. If we continue to signal to the world, like canceling the Keystone Pipeline, for instance, if we continue to do things like that, if we continue to scramble and go try to buy oil from Iran like we are now, if we keep doing everything we can but not use our own natural resources, no one's going to invest in bumping up our domestic production. Why would they do? Why would they? I mean, these lifespan of these wells can differ, but it's, if you're a private fund that invests in certain things, you're not going to go invest in these guys if in 2 years they're going to pull the plug on it.
Okay, so you're saying nobody's going to spend the money to drill our own oil if oil is going to become, or get natural gas, if it's going to become obsolete within 2 to 3 years.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, think about, I mean, gosh, it wasn't even 10 years ago when McCain was running and we were all screaming, drill, baby, drill. And man, we bumped up production on crude oil. I don't have the exact figures in my head, and gas, but I mean, exponential increase, found new shells in the Northeast and West Texas, and really solidified ourselves as a world leader in energy production. And now it's like, we just did this, and now we want to unwind all of it, all for solar panels and windmills, which I want to state, I do not have an issue with those. They do serve their purpose. They are good. Renewables are great. They're about 20% of our power grid right now. In Texas, it's over 40. That's a lot of people don't know that. They think they're just big energy, crude oil, natural gas. They're 42% of their power grid is wind farms and solar panels. So used correctly and introduced into our grid over time is absolutely, from an energy security perspective, is absolutely a good thing to do. Like, we need to keep doing that. Let's just dial it back a little bit. If we don't, I mean, look at all the conflict we're seeing over and, with Russia and Ukraine. Russia kind of, at one point they were supplying, I think, 50% of Europe's energy. Europe used to actually export energy 15 years ago. Now they produce, I think the last I looked was about 3.5 million barrels a day. They use 15. Keep in mind we use 20. It's a huge disadvantage. They're having to import, 12 million barrels a day. That's a lot. They produce about 220,000 a day of natural gas, but they use about 500,000 a day. Then they produce about 400 tons of coal a year, but they use over 900 tons.
This is Europe?
That's Europe, that's
and
right.
And this is all coming from...
And they used to actually produce most of their energy themselves and almost be a net exporter of energy. That was 15 years ago. Now, I saw something the other night that said, this is where I got all this data. His name's Michael Schellenberger. He also stated that there was actually a lot of hardcore evidence that Russia was financing anti-frack activities in Europe. for the last 15 years.
Wow.
And now look what's happened.
Well, Russia is supplying pretty much all of Europe with their gasoline, correct?
It's quite a bit, yes. Yeah. Over 50%.
So they put themselves in a situation they can't get out of.
That's right.
They can't do anything. They're
It's always about the oil, isn't it?
They're 100% dependent on Russia. Is it 100%?
Not 100%, but a lot. You know, when they, you know, you hear a lot about that Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which right now they have a pipeline that feeds Europe, I think through the Black Sea or somewhere up there. But they approved another pipeline, which you're hearing now because Germany canceled it. They were actually going to double the capacity. So they were going to go from, I think it was, Europe was going to be 40% Russian natural gas imports to 70, I think were some of the numbers we heard, which is put yourself at a huge disadvantage. I mean, just from a perspective, think about this. We pay roughly $4 to $5 per unit for natural gas right now. Over in the UK and Europe, it's 60. So 60 bucks, that's right. So just in a week, their natural gas price, their main hub, has gone up 100%, almost 100%. It's like 90% or so. In the last year, it's almost 1,000%. They used to pay almost, you know, when back just not 2 years ago, maybe less than 2 years ago, they were paying $4 or $5 a unit. Now it's 50, 60, 65. It's a crisis. And
so that's coming here.
Well, I mean, look at their stats, right? I mean, look at what they produce, what they use. They're ahead of us on the green energy curve. And we are heading down that same path. So if you have technically the largest energy user, which is supposedly us, and if we're going to start going more towards green and potentially cutting production down the road, we're just going to be at a huge disadvantage. So,
well, let me ask this question then. So if Europe is ahead on the green initiative, ahead of us on the green initiative, and they're importing the majority of their gas from Russia, and Russia cuts it. Let's just say, I mean, Russia cuts the gas. Are they fine?
No.
But they're green.
People die. If they cut their gas and there's extreme weather going on, they're going to be in trouble. You know, you look at Germany, for instance. You know, they're the ones that cut that Nord Stream 2 deal that are now canceling the deal with Russia. They're pretty much landlocked. I think we've tried to get them to build an import facility for liquefied natural gas, which we are the largest exporter of liquefied natural gas in the world just recently. Now, after all this, I wish our leadership would go in the same direction as Germany, because after all this conflict in Ukraine, they did not waste any time to come out and say, we are not, they were supposed to retire, I think, almost all their nuclear by the end of this year. They said, we're not doing that. We decided not to do that. We're going to keep them a little longer. And by the way, we're going to go back to burning more coal. We're canceling the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and we just approved 2 LNG import facilities to be built, which means now we can serve them natural gas, which is much more secure than their option now with Russia.
Interesting. So what do we need to be doing?
In my opinion, I think that we need to, instead, you know, our nation loves to bicker back and forth and loves to be divided right now. I think we all need to come together on multiple issues. I think this is one of the single most important issues that we can all find common ground on and that we should work together on. I think we should always want to be energy independent, but not fight over fossil fuels and renewables. They need to be together, like brother and sister almost. You know, it's like we need to come together and figure out what is the good balance. How quickly can we go from 20% renewables to 50%? You know, right now, I think that the Green New Deal wants us to be 100% renewable by 2040 on our power grid. Right now it's 20.
Wow.
You can't be 100% anything when it comes to people's lives. You just can't. You cannot do it. You know, our energy grid has been, you know, it has its faults like anything, but one of the best things about our energy grid is that we have multiple supply sources. We have gas, which is 40%. We have coal, which is 20%. We have nuclear, which is 20%. And then we have renewables. You know, and you start taking some of those away and you're relying on one thing.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's putting all your eggs in one basket.
Europe is the perfect example. I think I read, let's see, so 2021 was when they had their big spike when it started going from like $5 to $50 a unit. A big reason for that, their wind production was down 20% year over year. You can't control the wind. God controls the wind. So, you know, that's one good example. You know, another good example, I lived it, I breathed it. I still have nightmares about it in some cases, but we had a winter storm called Uri in February of 2020. And it was kind of like the perfect storm, so to speak, but we had these weather forecasts that were coming in. We saw it coming and no one was prepared. No one was prepared at the wind farms, solar farms, and hey, gas had a lot of hiccups too. So everyone kind of dropped the ball, so to speak. So we had super cold weather linger for 5 to 6 days, and it was literally over 3 of our supply basins, which started with Oklahoma, then went to West Texas, and then to Louisiana and the Haynesville Shale, and even North Texas too, as well, which Barnett Shale. So all these production areas started to freeze off. The wind farms were frozen off or shut down. You know, what a lot of people don't know is, you know, you think about getting in an airplane when it's cold outside, the first thing they do is de-ice the wings. You know, you got to do the same thing to a wind farm or they might break. Now, to everyone's credit this year, because we had some pretty cold weather the last couple months, and people were prepared, and our energy grid did well. But if you take nuclear, natural gas away, and coal,
it wouldn't have done well.
No chance. So, you know, it's very concerning. It's you know, just even to go beyond that from a very general perspective. You know, it's like another part of the Green New Deal is stop the sale of internal combustion engines in 2035. In 2040, stop the sale of heavy duty combustion engines as well. So I don't know the intricacies of that deal beyond that. I don't know what that means for planes or for 18-wheelers carrying our goods across the U.S. But I just cannot fathom our grid being able to handle that demand shift, especially without fossil fuels. It's impossible. We have so much demand right now globally for gas. I mean, everything is max demand right now, other than jet fuel. You got gasoline, you got diesel, which is Amazon's issue. They call it the Amazon economy. Our diesel demand is off the charts. So you think about if we really think by 2040, all these things are going to be plugged in. I don't think people realize, like, if you go plug something in, where does that come from? What makes that?
Yeah.
Right now, a lot of it's fossil fuels. And then you want to add all that demand, take gasoline away. It just seems absurd, you know. And then to add to that.
Are you saying it's impossible to get that done?
Yes.
Okay.
Without fossil fuels.
Okay. So by everybody plugging their car into the wall, it's fossil fuels are burning. It's that much more.
Yeah. Power demand goes up. They need more gas. They need more solar. They need more windmills. They need more everything.
Okay.
So the demand, I mean, the demand shift would be unsustainable.
What's going on with Russia?
Well, that's another thing. So
And you see all this as you're trading.
that's right. So the other concerning part of this whole global perspective, you've got just less than a month ago, Russia and China started announcing energy deals. They did back-to-back weeks. They announced a 30-year natural gas deal, that's a significant term. Even more significant, they announced a 100-year coal deal. So
100-year coal
100
deal.
year. Yep. So go back to, okay, well, we're supposed to do all this by 2040. Outside of the Green New Deal, you have the Paris Accord, which is Europe and US and China, who are all supposed to carry out these green initiatives together from a global perspective. And then you have Russia and China announcing a coal deal. They're clearly not going to abide by this. Also, they are the main supplier of solar panels and windmills because what are they made out of? Rare earth minerals.
And they're made in China.
That's right. So, high level, our strategy right now as a country, let's decrease fossil fuel dependence, increase renewable dependence, and buy most of our renewable equipment from China, who's making it with coal and gas, making that with fossil fuels and
Russia.
with their rare earth minerals. Good point. And think about it. And most of their energy looks like for the future will be supplied by Russia. I mean, in theory, I don't know the exact numbers, but because China's secretive and Russia's communism, it's pretty secretive. They don't let you know everything. But you have to think, if China's got over 1 billion people, Russia could be their gas station for everything. So think about that from a national security, very macro, very high level perspective. We are going to turn back the spigot on our fossil fuels. We're going to buy product from China who is supplied by Russia. I mean, how is that smart? How does that make any sense to any normal human? Like, especially after everything we've seen with this Ukraine conflict, there's rumors that China's eyeing Taiwan to invade them. I mean, we're going to help.
Those aren't rumors.
We're going
Those are not
We're going to
rumors.
help enrich them further. I mean, technically, this green initiative is going to enrich China and Russia further. Think about what we did. Okay, here's some hardcore numbers for you. Just from the last year, with all of our bad decisions, such as canceling the Keystone pipeline, crude oil went from 50 to 110 bucks. It's on a rip. I think natural gas was over $5 right before we started here. It was at $4.50 a week ago domestically. So what we did the last year with this commodity run, Russia collected $110 billion from crude oil exports last year, $55 billion from natural gas exports. We transferred a lot of wealth to them. You got to assume they probably used that to build up their military. And now they're invading Ukraine. So now we want to go enrich China and Russia again. Then what? It just seems like, it just all seems just too much, too fast. And I hope that every American that's watching this, every patriot watching this, especially all of us with children and wanting the future to continue to be bright for our kids, we have got to think about stuff like this. We can't just think we can flip a switch and our lives can be the same if we just cut out fossil fuels and go renewable. It's just not, it's not practical,
Yeah.
It's just not.
So the answer is drill.
Drill, baby, drill.
All right. Drill, baby, drill.
I don't see any other way around it. I mean, it got us where we are today. It's got us, it's got us in a good spot as a country, but you can see what just in the last, going from net exporter under the previous administration to now net importer, seeing how fast that can affect the markets globally. It's all eyes on the U.S. at all times. And if we continue down this path, we will weaken ourselves as a nation and put ourselves at bigger risk, for people to have to make lifestyle adjustments. I mean, I think that's what people need to realize. You want this, if you want to go green, if you want this dreamland to actually come true, we could try it, but there's a good potential your lifestyle is going to change a lot. Look at California. They have rolling blackouts. They're the greenest state in the U.S. They have rolling blackouts all the time. I have friends that I have coworkers that live out there. It is a common thing. It's like, oh, well, it's hot and it's the summer and there's just not enough gas. And that's an infrastructure issue there. We won't get into that. But I'm just saying, like, people need to be ready. If you indeed are all for this green energy this fast, you're not going to be able to go to the grocery anytime you want. You're not going to be able to go drive down to Florida or wherever you go for vacation with your family anytime you want. You will have to make sacrifices. And I don't think Americans are ready for that. And I don't see a reason to be ready for that.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? We could make all these adjustments in life and make all this progress, and then who knows? You could have some random natural disaster, volcano explosion, and then all that was for nothing. Those emit so many harmful things into the atmosphere. We could go and try to get our CO2 emissions to zero in 15 years, and then you have some major natural disaster, and it was all for nothing. It's just like people just have got to be more practical, I think.
Well, they need to be informed.
Yeah, and that I hope that was my intention with coming on here and living it real life and seeing some of the warning shots that we got back in that major winter storm in 2020, and now we're seeing play out in Europe with the Ukrainian conflict. Which prayers to all those people, and hope everything gets cleared up there soon.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, it's interesting to see kind of the circle of money,
It's always about the oil.
The circle of money is coming right back to Russia, and nobody can really do anything because Russia controls the energy flowing into Europe. And so if they upset Russia and they cut it, then they're done.
Bingo.
I mean, and that will happen also if we go green. If we don't manufacture, I'm not saying that will happen if we go green. If we don't start manufacturing our own solar panels and windmills, because those are going to need constant maintenance, they're going to need constant replacements.
Yeah.
And so if that were to cut off, we're already seeing supply chain issues. If China was to cut our supply chain, then they essentially cut our power grid, because our power grid will just disintegrate because we don't manufacture anything here at all.
That's right.
So I think there's a lot of points to take from what you just said, and I really appreciate you coming on, and it's a difficult topic to understand, but I think you did a great job. So.
Who knew how polarizing it was going to be, this topic, from when we talked about doing it 2 weeks ago to now? It's like the mainstream narrative right now. So really appreciate you coming on. You didn't get me a gift. You get everybody a gift? You did feed me, though.
I did feed you.
You did. That was good.
But,
drill, baby, drill. That's what we need to do.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
All right.